In today's video, I'm going to be comparing the Lotus Emira with the Lotus Elise. And just for fun, I'm going to throw in the Alfa Romeo 4C. Now some of you are probably thinking, boy, this comparison video is a long time coming. Sure wish I had it sooner. And then others of you are probably thinking, this is a comparison that should never happen. I'm sure Lotus is probably thinking that too sometimes, but if they didn't want me to compare the Lotus Elise with the Lotus Emira, then maybe they shouldn't have taken 2 years to get one into my hands. So anyhow, these are both cars that I have on my bucket list that I'd like to own. I already own the Elise and the Alfa 4C, and so I have a deposit down on the Emira, and I think it's fair then to compare those cars and see where they fit. Now that I've got Pete's itch-o-meter of criteria that I use to evaluate cars, I'll apply that to this comparison and see where the chips fall. In today's video, I'm going to cover the 5 attributes of sports cars that are most important to me. This is by no means a complete list, it's just the 5 things that are most important to me, and they are all relatively ranked. So the least important is the first one I'll cover, and then the very most important is the 5th one I'll cover. But again, these are the top 5 things that are important to me, so all of them are very important to me. The first category is cornering. Although it's not what I'm showing in this video, I recently took my Alfa Romeo 4C to VIR for my first high-performance driving event. In terms of cornering, I'd say it falls somewhere between the Lotus Elise and the Lotus Emira. And that makes sense. It also falls in between in terms of weight, and the fact that it has a turbo can make it a little bit unpredictable. The steering feel is not quite as precise as with the Lotus Elise, but it corners extremely well, and it was a lot of fun on the track. It would be really hard to imagine a car that corners better than the Lotus Elise. That's really the car against which many others have been judged over the last 25 years. And what you'll often hear when you're talking to people about track times is that the Elise is going to slice up those curves faster than almost any other car, but in the straightaways, she falls behind more powerful cars. The Lotus Emira seems to retain some of that focus on really good handling and cornering capabilities, but it does lose out because it's quite a bit heavier than the Lotus Elise. So while I think the Lotus Emira does a really good job in cornering, I'm going to have to give this one to the Elise. The next most important criteria on my list is how rare or exotic the car is. That's pretty important to me. So what I mean by that is, how often do you see it? How cool does it look? Things like that. So in that respect, I have to say that of the 3 cars, the Elise, the 4C, and the Emira, I give the top grade to the Lotus Elise. I think that's the most exotic looking car, although at this point there are enough Lotus Elises and Exesias out there that it's not quite as rare as some other cars like the Alfa Romeo 4C. And in terms of pure looks, I would give this one again to the Lotus Elise. I think it's a more exotic looking car than either the Lotus Emira or the Alfa Romeo 4C. My third criteria, and the one that's next most important to me, has to do with sound. Now sound is very important. That's the sound of the exhaust when you first start the car, the sound when you're driving, the sound from within the cabin, as well as when you're outside the car. All these things are extremely important to me. For purposes of my comparison, my Lotus Elise has a custom Rarity exhaust, whereas the Alfa Romeo has the stock exhaust, and the Lotus Emira that I test drove also had the stock exhaust. So how do they sound? Before we listen to the exhaust sounds of these 3 cars, I wanted to provide a technical note for some context. I recorded all 3 cars using the exact same audio-video setup. That includes a wireless lavalier mic, hanging out the trunk so that the microphone is actually right by the exhaust pipes. This gives you a really good idea of the actual exhaust sound, but it's not necessarily representative of what you'd hear and experience in the cabin. The exhaust sounds really good, and it's pretty loud, so I'll be honest, when I'm driving this car, I rarely turn on the radio preferring to just enjoy the exhaust notes. Select reverse gear. Well, I would have to, out of these three, give the top grade to the Alfa Romeo 4C. That car, the sounds that it makes, they're just amazing. I don't know how they got such a deep-throated sound out of that four-cylinder engine. All kinds of burbles and pops when you're decelerating. It's just a joy to listen to that car. Now the Lotus Elise is no slouch. That Rarity exhaust is very enjoyable. It's just a very different engine. It's a very high revving engine. And so again, I really like the Rarity exhaust sound in the Lotus Elise. And I guess in both of those two cars, the 4C and the Elise, there's not a lot of insulation, sound deadening material, so you really can hear those exhausts when you're in the cabin as well as outside the car. As I've mentioned in another video, the exhaust sounds of the Lotus Emira were a little bit underwhelming to me. As I was test driving it, I even rolled the window down to see if it sounded any better, and it was just a bit muted. So I'm not sure why that is. I imagine for comfort purposes they've added sound deadening and things like that. But maybe it's not tuned quite as nicely. And I really thought with a V6 compared to these other two cars with their four-cylinder engines that I'd be getting a more enjoyable exhaust sound from the Lotus Emira. Now I have been told that you can decat it and do other things to enhance the exhaust sound, and I'm sure those will make a difference. And please don't misunderstand, it sounds lovely. It's a very exciting exhaust sound, but I'm going to give this one to the Alfa Romeo 4C. The fourth category, and the second most important to me, is acceleration, because I love to accelerate rapidly from a stop. I love to be able to accelerate out of a problem situation in traffic. It's just a lot of fun for me. I don't go for top speeds, but I like to be able to accelerate rapidly. So when I'm comparing these three cars, I think it's a three-way tie, to be honest with you, because the 0 to 60 times are pretty similar for all three cars. They're just over 4 seconds. So I can't really say that one accelerates faster than another. So I'm going to give these ones a three-way tie in terms of acceleration. The last and most important to me, because I guess I'm a superficial guy, is the looks of the car. And when I'm comparing the Elise with the Emira or with the 4C, again, I'm going to give this one to the Lotus Elise. And I will say part of the reason I'm giving it to the Elise is because of the way they designed the exterior body effects. There's enough black components on the exterior of that car that it makes an awful wide variety of colors look really awesome on it. Now the Lotus Emira and the Alfa Romeo 4C, by contrast, do not have quite the same contrasting black body elements. And so not all those colors that look great on a Lotus Elise look great on the Alfa Romeo 4C or on the Lotus Emira. And I'll give you a for instance. So I love the color orange, and I think that my Lotus Elise looks fabulous in the chrome orange color that it has. When I was looking for an Alfa Romeo 4C, I really wished that they had something bright, like a nice orange color. And I actually found one for sale that someone had wrapped. And when I saw the pictures, I was really, quite frankly, underwhelmed. There just are not enough accenting body panels to make that color look really good on that car. That completes my head-to-head review of the Lotus Emira, Elise, and Alfa Romeo 4C. You'll need no other. This review was complete, thorough, objective, unimpeachable, unassailable. Now that I've given you one powerful review to rule them all, don't let it go to your head. Obviously, that was all tongue-in-cheek. This is all just my opinion. It's based on the factors that are important to me. I'm sure if I was looking at other factors like daily driving and comfort, I'd probably rank these cars very differently. But right now, these are the priorities that I have, and this is how I rank these three cars. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, the Lotus Emira versus the Lotus Elise and the Alfa Romeo 4C. I will have an opportunity to test drive a Lotus Evora sometime soon, and so I'm planning a comparison video with that car as well. I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And if you liked today's video, please share it with your friends, like and subscribe to my channel. Those are the things that really help drive those YouTube algorithms crazy and helps my videos get out to more and more people. Whatever car you're driving, have a blast driving it.